Hey, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking storms in several areas across the country. I think we counted 7 different areas for a level 1 severe weather risk today, but it is an all hazards risk on the board, so we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. Now, the big question today is, can they turn severe? We have one area that we're watching in particular that may be dampened with that severe risk by smoke and different dust factors that are coming into play. I know a lot of you guys experience this across the country. Does smoke actually influence if you can get a severe storm or not? We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. And it's still hot out there. Of course, you felt that as you walked out the door this morning. We have a high pressure system that is in control of our weather, and that will keep it pretty warm over the next few days. By just looking at this map, you can almost pinpoint where that high pressure system is, right across the middle of the U.S. On all other sides of the high pressure system, we have severe storms on the west coast and on the east coast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different areas to keep an eye on today. These areas in particular will be ones that we are watching for potential limiting factors, meaning that smoke and dust. Got another area for storms tomorrow up in Montana, but it is pretty quiet out there. Well, while it's quiet, we'll take this opportunity to talk about the hurricane and hail forecast. This is your last chance to register for the hurricane and fall hail outlook. You can either scan this QR code or you can go to info.hailtrace/hurricane-live. I memorized the website for you guys so that you can register or just stay on this live stream after we are done with the forecast today. We'll also have that live on our Facebook and YouTube pages. And guess who's joining us today? In about 30 minutes, Derek Klein will be down here in studio for that hurricane forecast. All right, let's get on with your weather forecast today. Now, yesterday, we didn't see a ton of severe weather activity, and we think a lot of that is because that smoke that's up in Canada that's coming over into our New England states that dampened a lot of these storms yesterday. Meanwhile, down in the south, we had just ongoing lines of storms. A lot of these storms not going severe at all, but a lot of rainfall in this area, meaning that we have that ongoing flash flooding threat for both today and tomorrow. You can see just how slow moving these storms were down here in Texas. We did have one reported tornado. I think that was this morning in San Antonio. We have some ongoing showers down in this area as well. One area for potential hail today, it's a low risk, maybe 1-inch size hail possible. This will be up in New Jersey for the most part. A little bit of Pennsylvania, the east coast of Pennsylvania, trying to get in on this hail action here. What about that tornado threat? Well, that'll be down in Texas once again. Here's a look at your hail threat for today. Yeah, we could see, we've got some yellows moving in here. That means quarter-size hail. I think that that's really all that we're expecting for today. Quarter-size hail from these storms that'll be ongoing through the afternoon and evening hours. If we overlay our radar on top of this, you can see just how isolated these storms are. Here's 1, maybe 2, 3 storms as we head into the evening hours. I kind of already gave this away, but we're not expecting those hail sizes to be too large. At maximum, ping pong ball size hail today. I'm not expecting anything larger than that. Other factors across the U.S., that tornado risk ongoing for San Antonio today. You could see a spit-up tornado or 2. I'm not expecting these to be too strong in this area, but a tornado is still a tornado, something to keep an eye on. This goes just barely to the east of San Antonio and then all the way to the west to the border at Del Rio. A level 1 risk there, so 1, maybe 2 tornadoes possible with those ongoing storms in southern Texas. Other than that, it's mainly a wind threat today. Some strong wind likely across the east coast, across the west coast as well. We go as far west as Bend, Oregon, and Yakima, Washington. Did I say that correctly? I'm not quite sure I said Yakima. Is that how you say it? Phoenix, Arizona, and Tucson, Arizona, also in that wind risk for today. Just a note here about storms down in Arizona. We could get some strong winds that will blow that dust around, and we could also have some low visibility thanks to dust storms as well. So just keep an eye on that. Well, speaking of dust and smoke, I'm going to give you an update. I'm actually going to bring in meteorologist Martin Lowrimore to give you an update on how dust and smoke could limit storms in your area today. All right, let's bring in meteorologist Martin Lowrimore.
Yeah, it has been a big issue that we've been seeing this past day or so, and it's expected to be an issue that we're going to be seeing continuing as we get into the next couple of our hours. So let's take a look at the satellite view. You can actually see over the past couple hours, actually, let me bring it back in. There is a lot of that smoke and dust. You can see these lower levels right here. You just barely see it. These are actually clouds here, but just underneath it, once we get back into our daytime satellite view, you can't see anything at night. Shocking. But again, as we get into our morning time, we see that lower level, the darker colors. You can see it near North Bay right here underneath these clouds. That is that smoke that has been a big issue across the Northeast with those Canadian wildfires near Ontario. So they have been seeing very, very unhealthy environments when it comes to that smoke. You actually see it when we overlay our surface smoke. Look at this. We've got extremely heavy smoke that has been filtering into these areas. And I want to note, again, this is that severe risk that we had yesterday, and that was a huge limiting factor for those storms. We had, I believe it was a level 3 tornado risk. We didn't have a single tornado report yesterday. We did have that one this morning, but that was in San Antonio. We had no tornado reports in New England yesterday, despite having that level 3 tornado risk. So it kind of underperformed a little bit. That level 3 severe risk did, but the air quality is also going to be a big issue. See how much of that unhealthy air, very unhealthy is that category they have in that purple there. That is meant specifically to be saying that we're impacting everybody. Not just people that have, issues with breathing, asthma, things like that. Everybody is impacted by that. So a lot of unhealthy smoke, but we were talking about the possibility of that being a limiting factor for severe storms up in the Northeast. And why is that? Well, when you get into a normal pattern, if you're thinking deja vu, we have talked about this before, but it's very relevant right now. So normal environment, warm air near the surface and cold air out the top. Does that smoke create acid rain? It's difficult to really get exactly acid rain. Usually you're looking at things like volcanic eruptions. Those are the ones because you're getting a specific element that will actually cause that acid rain to form. So normally what just happens when you get a lot of this smoke or dust, what will actually happen is these raindrops will literally catch the smoke mid-air and will hit the ground. And especially if it hits your car, it will actually cause the dust or smoke to actually basically get on your car. Think like a pollen. After a rainstorm, like a light rainstorm with some pollen, you got all that pollen caked onto your car.
I have a question. Does that mean that it can rain mud?
Yes, it actually can. In very, very thick environments of dust or smoke, it can quite literally rain mud. It's also very common when you get those volcanic eruptions as well. The clouds literally the volcano creates the rain, and that rain, very, very heavily impacted by the smoke, rains out mud. Yeah, so it can't actually rain mud. All right, so in a normal environment, warm air at the surface, cool air up top. When you get this smoke that starts pushing its way in, you actually get what we call an inversion. So we have warm air on top, cool air on bottom, and because all of this is being absorbed, it really warms up this layer of the atmosphere, and we have this inversion layer. So when storms will try to rise, as they normally do, they want to get big so they can have all that environment to create hail, tornadoes, and all sorts of severe stuff. But whenever it's hit by this cap right here, it can't grow any further. So it's lost a lot of its oomph, as we say. But again, really just keeping these storms very capped, and that is probably, more than likely, I could just say, that's what happened yesterday with no tornadoes. We've seen this happen before many, many times with smoke from whether it be out in the Northwest or whether it be in the Rockies. So a lot of impacts we're seeing out of this smoke in Ontario, and it's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So severe weather is probably going to get limited a little bit across the Northeast. We're going to back to Taylor, talking more about that forecast and what you expect for the rest of your week.
Thanks, Martin. It can rain. Okay, how about now? Okay, we're all good now. Okay, A few little mic issues, but we are all good now. Now, thanks, Martin. We appreciate that update. Yes, that smoke can absolutely inhibit our storms today or limit our storms today. We're not too worried about that in places like Texas. You know, what's really going to be the limiting factor here is that forcing down in Texas. We've got tons of moisture. It's been raining day after day after day. The main thing today is going to be that excessive rainfall, potential flooding impacts, and then we're also going to see that potential for a tornado or two in this area. Man, it is just rain after rain after rain shower here. Few storms in this area. Now let's go all the way up to the north. We haven't talked too much about Montana, where we do have that wind risk once again today. Showers very similar to yesterday will start in the afternoon, continue through the evening hours and into the late night, with that severe risk going down by about 9 to 10 o'clock tonight. And last but not least, let's go down to Phoenix, where I did mention earlier that we could have dust storms in this area with some strong winds coming out of these thunderstorms. Now, this is what we were talking about earlier. Can it rain mud? Yeah, we've got so much dust that gets lofted up into the air as those rain droplets come down. They attach themselves to those dust particles. Then as they hit your car and they dry off, it's just a muddy, dusty mess down at the surface. That's what it is. That's what we mean whenever we say, can it rain mud? But it's just kind of a silly way to say we are going to have dust, potential visibility issues, as well as those storm hazards down in Phoenix and Tucson, Arizona today. Now again, we have a high pressure system in control right now, so it's very, very difficult to get severe weather widespread across the country. You know, we're not going to have these big, strong, low pressure systems come in. If we saw this type of setup in April, we'd say that's your next chance for severe weather. But what's going to happen is this low pressure system is going to go over that high pressure system. That high is going to keep it out of our area, and it's going to stay hot and dry through the middle of the U.S. Meanwhile, all of that severe weather lofted up into Canada. So we're going to stay pretty quiet in terms of severe weather across the country, both today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, your biggest severe weather risk will be up in Montana, once again, thanks to that low pressure system. And we're going to struggle to get severe weather in here for the rest of the week. One little check on those storms in Montana for tomorrow. Again, you can see a little bit of hail with this, but I do think that the biggest factor is going to be that wind risk, very similar to what we're seeing today. And there's your forecast. John, before we jump off of here, do we have any last minute questions? No questions here. All right, well, let's just get an update on some of our rainfall totals across the country, mainly in the southern portion of the U.S. You know, down to the south, we're still expecting 2 to 5 more inches of rain, totaling about 10 inches of rain in some areas just to the west of Dallas and the west of San Antonio. Again, that flood impact or that flood hazard continues for not only today at that level 4 risk near Del Rio. Widespread flash flood expected, not just possible, but expected in this area. Not only today, but also tomorrow. So we're going to continue with that excessive rainfall potential all the way into the end of this week. And an update on our fire weather outlook. We have a level 2 risk for fire weather across the western portion of the U.S. You know, that's not going to help. It's not going to be great with the storms today because you could get some strong wind from those storms and lightning that could also make that fire potential worse. And then we've got an elevated fire weather risk across northern Colorado, Wyoming, and a portion of South Dakota. That does improve as we head into the middle of the week or the end of the week, which is nice. Heat alerts for today still staying with the northern portion of the U.S. for temperatures well above average up there. And what does that mean as we head into our weekend? Well, let's check. I actually think this is the very beginning of next week, July 20th through the 24th. Temperatures are likely to stay above average across the southeast and across the west coast, but we're finally seeing a little bit of a cool down farther up in the Midwest. And what about our rainfall outlook? A lot of rain coming for the west coast and a little for the east coast, but right in the middle we stay right about average for this time of the year. Well, look at the time. We're about 15 minutes out from the hurricane and hail fall outlook. We're going to bring in Derek Klein, CEO of HailTrace. If you guys want to stay on for that, either check our Facebook or YouTube pages in about 15 minutes. We will be live with our hurricane and hail fall outlook. And of course, as always, follow us on all forms of social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, and give us a call if you're interested in a hail, wind, or tornado map. Give us a call at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. This quiet weather that we're experiencing right now is the perfect time to go back out and work those storms that hit earlier in the year. We have all of those maps for you. Head over to hailtrace.com for more information. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we'll see you back here, same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.